Hello everybody and welcome to more Bandit Survivor, but just with a little bit less effort. And today we are going to be continuing on with our recaps plus reviews of Survivor UK. This time it's Series 1 Episode 2. Try saying that 5 times fast. And firstly, thank you all for the support on the previous episode. It is much appreciated. I didn't really know how it would do in the algorithm, and it's essentially just me talking for 20 minutes then, hopefully more so 10 minutes now because I got things to do. But we're still going to be doing our descriptive breakdown of the episode. For anyone that's wondering why this review, fingers crossed hopefully, is out so early, it is because I have access to it on BBC iPlayer, where for some reason they're uploading the episodes earlier, but I still want it to be in line with people that are watching on BBC One, and I'm not accidentally spoiling them about episode 2, so that's why we have the episode out now. But we start with the Orange Tribe, where, like I was saying last time in the episode 1 review, it seems like Tanuki and Nathan are really starting to be the core of this tribe. We get talks from Tanuki about how Nathan is basically our closest ally, and Nathan reaffirms that as well in his confessionals. And something that I was very impressed about, particularly with Nathan being this big strong guy that didn't really seem to have much knowledge about Survivor, is that they are intending to keep their duo under the radar, which I think is a very underrated aspect of Survivor. We have so many people that go out on the show and they're too obvious with their friendships, and as a result they get targeted because of it. But it is good game awareness that they know that they have to keep, essentially they have to keep their social skills hidden from other people so that they don't establish them as targets because they're so close. So I do like that aspect. And again, we also do get Nathan's character breakdown, so a pretty good start in the episode for him. However, it does become a little bit more sour by the end of the episode, as he does get kind of put down in the edit somewhat. Then we do have social politics on the Lenina tribe. I think I pronounced that wrong last episode. But we get introduced to Christopher, who is obviously a massive character outside of the show, where on Instagram he's been promoting it so much on his page, telling people to check out Survivor UK about how they're going to enjoy it, which is a bit shocking considering, as far as I read from Christopher's pre-season bio, which is ironic because it's actually a bio that's taken after the season but before it's aired, so it's kind of a retrospective for players. He obviously was talking a lot in his bio, but he didn't really seem to have too much game knowledge about Survivor specifically. But now he seems to be a big character on the show. He's someone that's very invested in it, and I feel like he is going to be obviously a character that's going to have these bigger moments on the show as we continue on. But we have a conversation with him and Hannah, which is pretty pivotal, as he is talking to her about physical weakness on the tribe, and Hannah brings up the fact that injuries could hold them back, which then worries Christopher, who wants to align with Ashley, who after episode 1 cut open her hand on the hoop challenge with the barrels, as she was holding on to it for a long time, and because of her hand injury, Hannah is now worried that she might be a physical liability for the tribe. To which Christopher essentially takes that information and then goes to Ashley and tells her that Hannah is targeting her. And it seems like in this, even though it wasn't fully established, this scene kind of sets up for me the power structure of the tribe, where we have the aforementioned Christopher and Ashley, but then we also have Ren and Doug. And basically this force seems to be the core contingent of the tribe, seem to be very solid with each other, so that is good to see. And Doug especially, I mean, this is basically the breakout episode for Doug, where episode 1, it was very tough because, as I said, with the 60-minute episodes, the marooning is so hard to fit into 60 minutes. Again, I feel like you need a 90-minute marooning, and hopefully they can maybe talk to TV guides after the season, show that Survivor UK is doing good and that they need that 90-minute marooning to really show off their characters. Because again, in the marooning, you have the marooning challenge, you have the introduction to the characters, you have the introduction to the show, you have the first immunity challenge, you have the tribe life scenes such as starting the first fire, setting up the tribe shelter. So there's so much to establish, which made me feel a bit mixed about episode 1 because it felt so fast paced, as well as all the character introductions that took up time, of course. But this time it feels like we're finally starting to see a lot more benefits to the 60-minute format as comparative to the likes of Survivor 41 and 44, where you'd only have 42 minutes if you're taking out advertisements. This allows us to have more of the thought processes comparative to those seasons, and as a result we kind of know a bit more where people's heads are at if it was, say, a 42-minute format like we've seen on most Survivor seasons. So we're starting to see the fruits kind of being bared from this 60-minute constant format every single episode, and as a result we see that Lenina, when they're talking about the physical challenge that's coming up for the reward, Doug volunteers to go up against Nathan, which initially the edit kind of sets up as this death sentence for Doug, about how he's going to be the sacrificial lamb going up against the person that's been established as the biggest physical player. But we also do get Doug's introduction, where he talks about his fishing background and fishing in Scotland with his father, which then, coming into the reward challenge, we have the introduction that they're going to be playing for fishing gear. So the challenge goes on. We do get some fun moments, such as Joel talking about how he thinks he's at a bodybuilding contest, and then we get to the match point, which is down to Doug versus Nathan. And considering all the setup for this, such as Doug saying that he's a fisherman and him being portrayed positively in the edit, seen as this person that is willing to take the fall and go up against Nathan, the biggest guy on the opposing tribe, it wasn't super shocking for me from an edit perspective that Doug ends up beating him. However, considering just how big Nathan is, and again, having this very physical occupation, it was a bit of a shock. And even Joel, he takes his cap off his head and he calls him the underdog because of it. Joel's narration throughout this entire challenge was amazing, even comparing it to, I believe he said it was like Black Friday and Asda, with them two just fighting over the bags. That was hilarious. Again, this challenge was based off Australian Survivor 2018 Champions vs Contenders, the Marooning Challenge, and plays out pretty similar to that, where you have to get a bag of items into the square for the tribe. So Doug does end up beating Nathan, which does obviously raise Doug's chances of winning the game. I feel like edgically Doug would be one of the front runners after this episode, after episode 2, just because we do get so much positivity relating to him, and even after this challenge. Whereas Nathan starts to go downhill a bit, where he does obviously have the talk about how his body needs to be strong and he needs to be one of the strongest people, because without his fitness he really isn't anything, his occupation isn't anything, only for him to then lose to Doug. So I feel like he does get thrown under the bus in the edit quite a bit. I also do love Joel giving Matthew a single grain of black pepper as they're walking away from the challenge, and I do like that the Survivor producers are letting Joel kind of play around, messing around with the cast, and really just bringing his humorous background into the show. I do like that they give him that ability to transform the show, and I think it makes it a better product after all. So we do get to the Lenina tribe, which now is 3-3 in the challenges, set up as the overdogs comparative to the other tribe, and we get our introduction to Sabrina. And Sabrina is someone that's kind of similar to Richard. If I was going to do my preseason winner rankings about who I think would be most likely to win the game, Richard was about the bottom third on the list, and so was Sabrina. I believe they were actually together. I think Richard was like 13 and Sabrina was 12, and it's because Sabrina does have the background of being a marathon runner in spite of being the joint oldest woman on the cast. But in this scene, she really comes off as like a Carolina Eastwood sort of figure, where she's trying to take control of the tribe and the tribe isn't really having it. But we also get talks about Rachel struggling with having sand in her eye, and she really doesn't like things in her eye, to which Pegleg and Lee kind of get trashed on in the edit, saying about how it's Survivor and she should be expecting it, but they don't really get the support of the edit. They're kind of shown in a negative light here, and we also do get her getting more content as well, talking about the tribe dynamics. And again, Lee's content has been very negative this season, where he was even showboating during the previous challenge against Shay, where he's in the clear lead and he stands there by the square saying for Shay to take him on only to drop it in. So not feeling too good about my fellow Northern Islander chances at the moment. But then we get to the immunity challenge, which again is very similar to Australian Survivor. There is a difference where I believe in Australian Survivor they didn't have to go down in the middle section to dive for the crates and get the bamboo out of it, so that's different, but it's pretty similar, where essentially you have to get these bamboo rods and stack them up in like a Jenga tower and get it to a certain height, then leave it freestanding, and the first tribe to do that for 5 seconds ends up winning, where we do get into essentially quote-unquote not gate, where Rach says that because she is a singer and she's used to holding her breath, that she'll be very good during the challenge, and then Sabrina nominates herself as well, only for Sabrina not to be able to untie the knots, goes back to the tribe raft, causing Christopher to have to go in, and then Rach, I believe, undoes one knot before then going back a while later to get back to Lenina Raft, and then she's swapped in again. But this causes Camelot to have a huge lead, where the tribe ends up for the first time in Survivor UK winning a challenge, which is great because they were set up as the underdogs, and it is nice to see both tribes now having to go to tribal council, again spreading out the screen time and the tribal dynamics. But because of the issue with the swimming, Sabrina and Rachel have targets on their back, as well as Ashley, who had to sit out of the challenge because it was a swimming challenge and she didn't want to injure her cut anymore. So we kind of get this setup almost where it's 4v4 with Rach joining the Ren, Christopher and Ashley contingent, whereas we have Sabrina, Hannah, Pegleg and Lee on the other side, and Doug is in the middle. And I do really like Doug. I have seen pre-season that he does seem to be one of the people with more game awareness, where he was talking in his pre-season bio about how he wants to have this meat shield strategy, and he even uses Survivor terminology this time about how he's a swing vote and he's in the middle. So I feel like that is very strong gameplay for Doug, and even though he is called out by Rach about her not trusting him, he ultimately is kind of seen in the edit as the savior for Rach, as is established as whoever Doug sides with is going to have the majority, whereas as we get to the votes it's not completely true, where we do see, seemingly because of tribal council with the rift between Lee and Rach, that Lee and Pegleg end up voting for Rach, which seems to be a kind of duo in the game that isn't fully established. Maybe with the Meal Alliance next episode that has been teased, that might be set up more, but they both end up voting for Rach, whereas Sabrina and Hannah end up voting for Ashley. But it is the remaining 5 that eliminates Sabrina from the game due to her kind of annoying the tribe, as well as probably also being weak in the challenges. And I do like that we got good setup this time for the 3 that were in trouble, Rach, Ashley and Sabrina, comparative to last time, where you're kind of wondering why Richard is being targeted and why he got eliminated if they're doing challenge strength over Leilani, who literally couldn't get the barrel herself over the line. It is good that we got proper setup this episode, and again the fact that it was a good 60-minute episode where there was less character breakdowns, where we didn't have the marooning, it was a lot more content relating to the contestants, and the social dichotomy really helped this episode. And in my opinion, it's far better than episode 1, where I was a bit mixed on it, and I feel like it bodes really well for the future of Survivor UK, especially because there's been no talk about advantages yet. Now next episode it has been teased again from Joel that there are going to be dilemmas with like Ren and Doug, and there is going to be hidden immunity idols that seem to make an appearance. But I am actually very happy that we have 2 episodes that aren't revolving around advantages. It's almost kind of a luxury, where obviously Survivor 45 there's so much talk about advantages, Australian Survivor about 4 contestants would have advantages by now, so it is a nice change of pace to see almost this Tocantins-esque season where advantages really haven't been discussed, and they're going to be probably playing a bigger factor later on in the season, but aren't at the forefront right now. I do like it. So again, I am very positive on this season. I think the cast is great, and I can't wait to see what they're going to end up doing. Again, I was talking to some people in Gumball's server, and I do agree with them when they say that it feels like the cast is playing very well, but also we do have those emotional arguments as well about how people are just annoying each other and they're getting votes because of that, or because Rachel has sand in the eye and she's complaining, then she has people Pegleg and Lee complaining about her. So it's kind of a good mix between strategy and just emotional arguing. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you do want to watch more content on the channel, I have played Survivor Castaway Island recently. It is a chaotic game and you definitely want to see my reaction. But thank you all so much for watching this episode. Enjoy your day. Peace!